everybody on Knotfest, please give a rousing welcome to UK upstarts Vexed, who just released their debut album on May 21st. And as I was saying, thank you for giving that birthday present to me, everybody. It was very, very much appreciated. But Vexed, welcome to Pulse of the Maggots. How are y'all doing?
Yo.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we're good, thank you.
We'll start this off pretty easy. It's been a ridiculous stream. It's stressful for me as well. So, this is just as much for me as it is for you. You've had a weekend to sit on and, live with the fact that your debut album is now out in the world. What emotions are you feeling? How does it feel to know that all this work that you guys have been doing is now out there and for people to listen to?
It's really surreal because for us, we've had it recorded. Oh. No, too many of us talking at once. Go for it, Jay.
It's just been such a long time coming. We started this album, it hasn't been the standard sort of process where, you start writing, the whole thing's sort of done and done in, a few months, 4 or 5 months or so. There are songs in this album, we started writing in 2017. So it's been such a long time coming in general, and that's just for the whole COVID thing, where we had to, postpone and push back. So we've been sitting on it for so long, and we've been so impatient. So I guess it's kind of just the relief of actually finally getting it out. It feels good to actually get it out into the world. It's been so long, and we've been getting stupidly impatient.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that too, because we just had Violetta from Spain two-piece Bala on before you guys came on, and she said a very similar thing, where their album was written and recorded in 2019, and they had to wait all of that, all of last year to do all that, and they were just like, we're fucking impatient, we want that shit out, right now, let's go. We've been listening to the album. I'm sure Perrin has some thoughts on it. I think that it's great, and congratulations everybody on getting that out into the world.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I realised that my mic is lagging to hell, so I'm really sorry to anybody listening.
You sound pretty good to us.
Oh, okay, good.
No visible issue.
Okay, cool. No, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really weird. Like Jay said, just sitting around for a couple of years, being like, "Yay, we're signed to Napalm." Oh no, you can't release it. Yeah, we've got a tour, but you can't go on it. So it's really weird because we've kind of all experienced it just through a mobile phone screen. So it doesn't feel like it's really sunk in yet. I think when we go to a show and actually play a show, we'll actually get rid of the imposter syndrome and actually feel like this is happening. But at the moment, it's very much experiencing it from my phone, and it doesn't feel real.
Yeah, well, I think that that's interesting, right? Because you, as a band, almost experiencing it as a fan, almost, right? Almost like there's that, plexiglass divider, stopping you from, really taking all of that stuff in. But, one, I would like to try, as someone who suffers from imposter syndrome all the time, I would like to try and alleviate all of that from you all, because, when we were talking about it before, we got on, just the blending of different sounds that you all are able to incorporate in your music so well, right? And Perrin mentioned this on his podcast, we were talking about it before y'all popped on, about how there are deathcore elements to this album, but you guys aren't a deathcore band, right? There are nu metal elements into it, but without y'all doing the nu metal revival type of thing. And even we were talking about Purity, that has progressive elements to start off, right? You might be listening to Periphery or Protest the Hero or something like that. So I'm curious as far as how you all blend all that in subconsciously or not subconsciously, and what your process kind of looks like in a day in the life of a Vexed song.
It's pure chaos, to be honest. We kind of all get together and act like a bunch of twats for a while, and then we we force ourselves to sit down and concentrate, and then all of us listen to such a huge like spectrum of music. Like I'm a massive rap and grime fan. Al is as well. So is Jay. So when we kind of like decided to start writing this, we were just like, we're not gonna limit ourselves to a genre. If it feels right, we're just gonna put it in and see what happens.
Is that where
but you know
well, I mean, like from the kind of the vocal perspective, like it makes sense that you say about the grime thing and that, because there are those moments like in the song "Fake" that we were playing just before you came on the stream. Those moments of like really hyper fast, almost like like scattered kind of growls or screams, which like makes sense from a grime perspective, but also like I'm presuming you're of like a similar age to myself, where not only have we grown up with, I mean, obviously the likes of like Corey Taylor, but also someone like Phil Bozeman from Whitechapel, when he used to do like those like hyper fast, like, super deep guttural growl, but like at such a ridiculous, like almost rapped kind of speed. Like, I guess is there inspiration from both of those kind of sides of the table when it comes to like channeling something like that?
Yeah, 100%. I was like the ultimate Slipknot fan. I still am as an adult, but as a teenager, like I was just, there were posters of them everywhere. And so like Corey's sort of early days vocals especially were a huge influence. And then obviously Phil Bozeman, that goes without saying, like the Saw is the Law is just like I like people put on like, I don't know, Little Mix in their car and sing along, and I put on the Saw is the Law and I'm just like going along doing that. So yeah, it definitely. And then obviously the rap comes into that as well. I'm a big rap and grime fan, and so are the boys. So we wanted to try and put everything we possibly could in and not limit ourselves, but make it metal.
Yeah, because something else that John was talking about, some of the metallic elements that are at play, whether it is like kind of slightly proggier stuff, slightly more like metalcore stuff, whatever. But there's also something that I was just thinking about while listening to your album is like you guys are a really like straight up aggressive metal band. You know what I mean? Like it is in your face, heavy first and foremost. It's the overriding impression you get from like having those songs just pummel you, and it's certainly what I imagine like the live show is going to be all about, which I can't wait to see. But I was thinking about how for a band like that in 2021, like yourselves, it almost seems like it's par for the course now for like bands to be including loads of electronics and kind of elements from like other kind of areas of rock music, rather than just being like guitar, bass, drums, whatever. There's kind of like lacings of like almost like trap beats and stuff like that kind of like hi-hats, so it's kind of like skitter across like what are otherwise like big heavy metal songs without being so like there are certain times when bands do that and it feels a little bit like garish, like we are trap metal, and it feels like a bit trend hoppy and a bit try hard trying to do these things, whereas with your record it feels a little bit more like you've got to kind of listen out for them. They're a little more kind of tastefully implemented. Is that kind of that approach of like trying to include those elements but not make it like super obvious and super like again kind of try hardy about like trying to show off how many things you're trying to include? Is that like how important is that to the creation of this record?
We did very much try to we really write with the genre in mind. We sort of just prefer to write whatever sort of, I guess, and whatever come out. We never write in a box. There was never anything specific in mind. We never were thinking, hey, let's keep it this way, sort of sub-genre. We sort of just anything we'd hear, we'd sort of just throw it in and just experiment with things, see how things turn out. So all the trappy sort of elements, things we want to incorporate there. They will never, we never started writing a song and thought, okay, let's make sure at some point in this we get some cool like trappy hi-hats.
Yeah.
It's all stuff that sort of we hear it and we sort of just try stuff out. We never tried to, I guess, limit ourselves by trying to go for a certain sound. We sort of just started writing and whatever come out.
Yeah, I think you can also hear that in I guess some of the structuring of like how songs turn, you know, melodic or heavy or whatever, because you know, we all know that metalcore cliche of screamy verse, big clean radio chorus, like yada yada, and you know, obviously your record includes, you know, both, you know, heavier sections and melodic sections, but it doesn't feel as kind of clinically laid out like that, where you can really predictably tell, you know, when a song is going to have a big clean chorus. And if anything, the album almost like becomes more melodic and a little bit more atmospheric and ethereal as it kind of progresses through the track list. So like, how do you go about kind of exploring that kind of dynamic and selecting where to deploy, you know, those kind of larger, broader elements when it comes to, you know, both in the songwriting process and in like the structuring of the actual, you know, album track list?
I think it, a lot of the time, I think, guys, I don't know if you agree, but it kind of comes from the vocals. So like if for example, so if Jay's written like a guitar riff and I'm like, oh, I've got something I could scream to that. Oh, but this line I feel like I should sing because it's quite vulnerable. We kind of like work around it in that way. So like anything that I scream is kind of coming from a place of strength and power and anger. And then when I sing, it's coming from a place of vulnerability and fear, I suppose.
Right.
I'm quite insecure about my vocals, clean vocals. So it kind of comes from a vulnerable place. And I think we kind of, a lot of the time when we were writing, worked it around that, to sort of, well, if I'm screaming, it's going to be balls deep heavy, and if I'm singing, maybe we need to lighten it up a bit.
That's interesting to hear you say that. You know, it almost comes from a place of insecurity about your delivery of it. Like, obviously, you've not been able to go and play these songs live or anything like that. Like, just, you know, on the fly, you saying that makes me wonder whether, like, you know, at the end of a touring cycle for this kind of record, when you've been able to go on stage and you know, sing these songs, whether, you know, the dynamic of which vocal style, I guess, embodies which emotion might kind of shift when it comes to, like, you know, the next record, when it comes to being, you know, having, you know, become more comfortable with the process of how, you know, it's delivered on stage.
Yeah, definitely. You never know. I might start screaming about really sad things and singing about really happy things.
It's a dispute.
I had a question. I'm sorry. I had a question that I wanted to add with that. But Megan, you've been listening to Vexed for a little bit too. Before I ask that one, I wanted to have you have a chance to get in and ask your questions as well.
Yeah, everything you just said is really, I can relate to like all of it. I love how authentic that is. It really, the newer bands that I'm listening to, especially in metal and stuff, I tend to listen to the harder cut, more grind and all of that, and more death metal-y stuff. But I love how authentic you are. That just comes across everything. And what you just said, I can totally just empathize with being very vulnerable about your cleans, and I think that I cannot wait to see that live, because that's gonna come across like that vulnerability, that authenticity. Like, that's why you guys are where you're at right now. I'm just stoked to see where you're gonna go.
Thank you so much. I
You're
think
welcome.
it's also, it comes from, I think, being a woman as well, because like when you're screaming as a woman, you're like, I feel powerful and I feel up there with the men. And then when you start singing, you're like, I'm a girl.
Yes.
Please think I'm tough.
I get that. I get that too, because we have this voice too, and then go out here and do that. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of fun though, watching people's faces like change after they're talking. Yeah, I dig it.
One of the funniest things about this band, which we love, is whenever all of us are in sound check, we the boys will be like checking their guitars or their drums or whatever, and then I do this thing where I'll just start. They'll be like, could the vocalist start singing into the mic, please? And I'm just like, just to see what people do, and it's really funny. I bet you get that as well. So
yeah. My guitar player, when he checks, like sometimes I'll just have him check for me, and just so I can get those people's reaction.
Yeah.
And one show he had to check and after me, and I just hear the sound guy go, "Wow, she's a lot louder than you are," and I lost it. So I tease him about that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
So speaking of, scaring people and, being powerful and everything like that, Perrin mentioned almost like the scatting parts and stuff like that. When I listened to it for the first time, I thought it was just like fire being like spit out of a machine gun almost. Like that's the type of like imagery that comes to my mind. So this question is for the entire band, but like I want to focus on like the rhythm section specifically, because especially in songs like Narcissist or Weaponized, where like all the kind of like scatting, rapping parts that are just like so fast, where you almost can't understand what is going on unless you like look at the lyrics, which is par for the course for like rhyme and rap and stuff like that. How do you start like putting that together with like the double bass kicks and the bass and everything like that? Because like I'm sure that it falls together at some point, but like when I'm listening to it, it's just like, holy shit, like that's you can't plan that, right? It just has to happen. Like tell me a little bit about like how that kind of goes.
I'll start and then I'll hand it over, because I haven't got a fucking clue when it comes to what these guys do. It's just completely, I don't know, like I can play a C chord and that's about it.
Well, it started with you, didn't it?
Yeah, so I wrote the whole lyrics down and I was like, I'm going to scream this like it's a rap song and you guys need to follow the rhythm. And so I did that at a rehearsal, recorded it on my phone and gave it to Jay, and he had to go home, you poor fucker, and listen to it about 1,000,000 times to remember exactly what I was doing. So yeah, I don't know how you guys essentially carried on.
We started with well, not even necessarily the lyrics, just the pattern that you come up with for the lyrics. We, start really basic. Let's just follow that pattern, have everything sort of following that same pattern, and then just try and incorporate different elements and try and make things a little bit more interesting. We follow that pattern, and then we have like weird little twiddly fucking bits and all of that sort of stuff to try and make it. But I think we wanted to keep it as sort of basic without straying too far away from that initial pattern. Just more focused on just like super fast like rhythm, as opposed to riffing way too much.
Yeah, that's interesting because kind of most songs are, especially like by rock bands, are written from like riffs and drums and everything up. Whereas the way you're describing it almost sounds like the lyrics and vocal patterns and everything come first, and the kind of the rest of the band kind of moves backwards from that. Is that like is that kind of, I guess, how it works? Like lyrics first and then build a sound kind of from there.
It did for that song, yeah.
Yeah, that song specifically, but
yeah,
it sort of varies, doesn't it? Really.
We kind of like. Sorry, go on, Jay.
That's right. It's not something we had really done before. We'd never really written from vocal. So
right.
It put sort of quite an interesting dynamic on it, right that way, as opposed to starting with guitar or starting with like a pattern or something like that. Yeah, It's not something we'd done before.
I feel really sorry for Al. If you're up there on the screen, Al, because
you got it perfect.
Al joined the band later on, and so when he kind of heard Narcissist and was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do on bass?" I don't know what you ended up doing on that, Al.
I learnt the entire album by ear in the space of 2 weeks and lost my mind throughout that. But yeah, I feel like the way that song kind of locks together with the vocals and the instrumental, that like it adds, when kind of building from the vocals and then upwards, you get like more of a cohesive listening experience, if that's kind of the right way to say it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly it definitely adds that element of vocals and rhythm section being locked in, which is certainly a lot more important if you're kind of incorporating some of those more hip hop kind of elements more than I would say certainly your average heavy metal band.
You never know. We might album 2 surprise everybody and just come out with a rap album and
Yeah.
matching tracksuits and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so speaking of that, I'm sure you could get Ice-T to guest on your next album. I'm sure that would be badass. But like, so as we start to like kind of like wind down and wrap up and everything, which I feel like we could talk about all this and like music for fucking hours and shit like that. But you mentioned that and like I've read even before this that songs you have written songs Sorry, my mind is fried over here. Let's try this again. Some of the songs on this album you said were written around 2017, 2018 or so, and then you've written some newer songs since then. Now that all of that is in the past, right? I know it's only 2 days in the past, but like album's out now, like you're done with that. How do you approach writing from that now that you are just like clean slate, ready to go? Like what's next for Vexed?
So we started writing album 2 a few months ago, and
like half a year ago.
Yeah, I suppose so. I've lost all concept of time, and obviously it's really weird because at the moment we're experiencing something that we wrote so long ago, so we're kind of like getting feedback and hearing things, which is amazing, but for us it was like such a long time ago. We're kind of going in with the same approach, which is write what we want to write and put in what we feel like we want to and should without worrying if it's going to sound good or not, and just try and push ourselves even more. Something about us lot in the studio is that we have an amazing producer who pushes us to the point of tears. And like when I went in with Narcissist, it was I had never even performed it live. The first time I did it was in the studio, and he's fantastic at being like, that was shit, do another take, that was shit, do another take. And we kind of all individually like to push ourselves to the point where we can't actually play what we've written, and then by the end of the recording process we can play it with our eyes closed and our hands tied behind our back, that sort of thing. So that's what we're kind of aiming for. Well, maybe, not you. That would be impressive. But that's what we're aiming for. Again, with album 2, is to push ourselves again, even beyond, what we thought was impossible with Culling Culture, but for album 2, I guess. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, album definitely would have been nowhere near what it is at the moment if we weren't properly pushing ourselves to the limit. If we stayed within our comfort zone, then it would be a completely different album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, some of those tracks were written literally years ago. Since then, our influences and we're taking inspiration from completely different places. So our sound, for album 2, it's in comparison, it's completely different. I'd say it's but it's we definitely experiment more, I guess. We definitely experiment more. We've been pushing ourselves more. We've been inspiration from just way more genres, way more different places.
Awesome, looking forward to hearing it.
Absolutely. And just I think that's incredible too, because I remember when I was in high school, Megan, what you just said about like we can't play these things right now, but by the end of the recording we do that. I remember hearing that about a band that maybe some of you have heard of called Demogod. I remember listening to an interview of them. They said the same thing. Like, we write the riffs where we can't play them first, so that we can, by the end of the doing that, because that pushes us to be better, makes the music better. So,
That's so cool. I didn't know
there
that.
you go.
That's so cool.
So that's amazing, and with the way that your guys' sound are right now, with incorporating so many different things on it, like Perrin, I'm looking forward to see what you all have to offer coming up, because I think that once again, Megan, when we were talking earlier in the show, was like, yeah, I need to go check out their discography and everything like that. I was like, this is a debut. Like, this is the debut album, right? Which I think that sometimes it takes a band a couple of album cycles. Yeah, a couple of album cycles to find that, and you guys have done that already. So we're looking forward to hearing what Vex has to offer in the future.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny because that should give us comfort, but that also terrifies me because how the fuck are we meant to top it? But hopefully we figure it out. I'm sure we will. There's a lot. I'm
sure you will as well.
About right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Quick question before you guys go, as you know, the one here who is from the UK. When are you guys touring? Like, when are the dates? Like, as they are currently. I know everything is going to change every 5 minutes, but like, have you got kind of anything lined up?
So we've got Bloodstock confirmed. So fingers crossed that goes ahead. And then after that, nothing's confirmed. We're a bit in limbo at the moment.
Right.
We're hopefully going to get a UK headlining tour for the end of this year. But it's just all promoters and venues and COVID depending.
Sure.
But yeah, as soon as we're allowed, if you booked us, I don't know, tomorrow on Mount Fiji, we'd be there. So, like,
I mean, Bloodstock's good. Bloodstock's good time.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, this has been Megan, Willem, Al, and Jay from Vexed. Thank you so much for joining us on Pulse of the Maggots. Culling Culture is out now via Napalm Records. Pick it up. It's a really great album. And we've been seeing a lot of love for you guys in the chat, saying someone said that Narcissist was their favorite song. We also are curious if that is a King 810 sweatshirt that you're wearing right now as well.
Yes, it is. Love them.
Fuck yeah. Well, Vex, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you on in the future.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.
It was an honor. Thank you.
Bye.